focus in. So, wanted to highlight with the New Zealand shooting. We're not necessarily looking specifically at the shooting anymore, but some of the results from it. So, we talked about Prime Minister Ardern. She is now come out with a ban on military-style semi-automatic weapons, assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, saying that none of these things will be allowed. Parliament's going to be voting on it in the first week of April. What do we think would happen in the United States if our government leaders tried to propose similar bans on firearms? Yeah, Caleb. Texas would leave the United States? You'd have some pretty upset people. They would try to argue that it violates the Second Amendment. Again, the Second Amendment doesn't necessarily specify what types of guns can be on, but it does say that citizens have the right to bear arms. Yes?
So how, if they do have a ban on those things, how will they be able to take everything away? Like, are they going to go into your house and just take it away, or what are they going to do?
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's not enough information here to really specify. What they're saying is, so like the cabinet in the country, they have a program that they've been implementing that's going to be a buyback program. So people that have spent money on these guns, they're going to be able to like sell them back to the government ideally, and then they'd be able to kind of regain what they would have lost. So that there's going to be a period of gun amnesty in which citizens can take their firearms to a police station. Yeah.
Some like different firearms, like different assault rifles and stuff. Some people have over like $5,000 in just one, and other people just have like $300. So how will they be able to sell them back for the price that they pay for them?
That's a good question. I couldn't answer it. It will be interesting to see how New Zealand tries to implement this, and to see if other countries try and push like similar legislation through. But definitely an interesting question. In the United States as well, if you had politicians that were trying to advocate for this, we do have a powerful gun lobby in the country. Because you know that there would be some of these gun lobbying groups that would do everything they could to fight against this. On this topic, I was talking with my friend the other day, brought up with this New Zealand shooting, how the international community has kind of been mourning it, and how they've been talking about it, and it is a horrible thing. We should mourn it. At the same time, though, we pointed out that in Africa, specifically around Nigeria, you've had some militant Muslims that have killed 120 Christians in the last few weeks, but people haven't been talking about it quite as much in the media. So that was an interesting point that they brought up. And having this conversation, I mean, the idea came up, well, maybe in the United States sometimes we focus more on developed nations and news that is happening there. And New Zealand is a lot more similar to us than some of these other countries in Africa. But definitely it brings up like the point, like, well, shouldn't we focus on any deaths of anyone, like regardless of their religion? And it even brings up the question, like, sometimes in America, are we more sensitive to certain religious groups compared to others? Not saying that I necessarily agree with them, but I've mentioned the author Sam Harris before. He has a PhD in psychology, writes a lot on religion. He's pretty well known, Sam Harris, but in one of his books, he criticizes a variety of religions, but he's been somewhat critical of Islam. One of the things he said, he would probably consider himself maybe more on the left, a little bit more Democrat, but he said to other people that are also on the left that he believes sometimes they are really like sensitive and always there to like back up Muslims, potentially because they are perceived as almost like a minority group. You have a lot of them that are from the Middle East, and going back to like the ethnicity topic, says that that could be potentially one of the reasons why sometimes there's more of an emphasis on looking out for Muslims and defending Muslims with the left, with Democrats. Definitely an interesting idea there. Any thoughts on this specific topic, the deaths of these Christians, and how it hasn't been reported quite as much as the deaths of the Muslims in New Zealand? Okay. Go ahead and clear your desk, leave the bells going to ring in the next